Welcome, dear voyager, to Sleep with Stories, where the tides of language and the hush of imagination carry you gently toward rest. Tonight, we cast off from the familiar shores of your day and slip quietly into a sea of stillness, where horizon and heartbeat meet. Take a slow breath in, let it linger, and exhale the weight of the world. The bustle of crowded rooms, the endless scroll of tasks leave them at the dock. Here, there is only the quiet pulse of the water and the patient turning of the stars. Our journey begins aboard the Silent Siren, a handcrafted wooden gullet that seems less a vessel and more a lullaby carved in oak. Beneath your bare feet, its sun-warmed deck invites release. Beyond the bow, azure cradle coves shimmer like liquid glass, each ripple glinting with the memory of forgotten tides. And somewhere on the soft breath of the Aegean, ancient voices stir faint echoes of the sea peoples, carrying truths the centuries have long concealed. Captain Zephyr, silver-bearded and steady-handed, will guide us across these tranquil waters, while the sea itself becomes our companion, its sway a cradle, its hush a tender refrain. Soon, the shoreline will fade into pale silhouettes, and you will feel the slow untying of every tight knot within. If these voyages of calm and wonder speak to you, remember to like and subscribe for more soothing passages into sleep and stillness. Now, settle into comfort. Feel the gentle breath of salt air on your skin. Let the horizon widen, let your thoughts drift, and allow the story to unfold around you. The Silent Siren found its quiet haven. Azure cradle coves shimmered, inviting you to float. Ancient whispers of sea peoples hinted at enigmatic, forgotten truths. The tranquil embrace of the Aegean held you in its gentle sway, a cradle of ancient whispers floating on the breeze. The Silent Siren, your unique wooden gullet, glided with an almost imperceptible grace, its decks warm beneath your bare feet, carrying you further from the clamor of the world you've left behind. The rhythmic hum of the engine was a low lullaby, the soft lapping of waves against the hull, a soothing percussion, as the world outside slowed, replaced by the profound stillness of the open sea. It was a subtle shift, yet utterly transformative, like a deep breath held and slowly released. Ahead, the water shimmered, hinting at depths and wonders unseen. And then a glimpse, a subtle blessing, 2 grand sea turtles, ancient mariners themselves, performed an unhurried, graceful dance just beneath the surface, their powerful flippers propelling them in an age-old ballet. Their passage was a silent invitation, a promise of the magic hidden just beneath the surface, affirming that this was no ordinary voyage. It was a journey into profound stillness, into the heart of unquiet, endless blue. As the sun climbed higher, painting the sky in ever brighter hues, the Silent Siren found its rhythm. You watched the coastline recede, the jagged edges of distant islands softening into hazy silhouettes, and a deep sigh escaped you, unbidden. The gentle sway of the gullet, the vast expanse of sea and sky, conspired to loosen the tightly wound threads of your urban existence. You found Captain Zephyr, 62 years old, at the helm, his deeply tanned face crinkling into kind crow's feet around his gentle, observant gray eyes as he offered a nod. His neatly trimmed silver beard framed a quiet smile, and his strong, capable hands rested easily on the wheel, guiding the vessel with an innate understanding of these waters. "Welcome to the Aegean's embrace," he murmured, his voice a low, melodic rumble, deeply attuned to the rhythms of the sea. His quiet strength and genuine warmth were immediately comforting. Not long after, you met the other travelers who shared this unique journey. There was Corvin Beckett, 38 years old, whose tawny hair, kissed with a salt and pepper widow's peak, framed a thoughtful gaze. His lean build spoke of a sedentary urban life, and though initially a bit restless, weighed down by the invisible chains of professional pressures, you sensed a deep, underlying sensitivity and a yearning for genuine tranquility. He clutched a worn paperback, though his eyes seemed to drift more to the horizon than the pages. Then Emberlin, a woman whose origins seemed as distant and intriguing as the ancient lands you would soon explore. Her eyes, the color of moss after rain, held an insightful depth, and her movements were graceful, deliberate. She introduced herself with a soft smile, her voice carrying a faint, lyrical cadence. Quietly observing the scene were Reese and Willow, a pair whose connection seemed to transcend words. Reese, with his calm demeanor and attentive eyes, often seemed to be taking mental notes of every detail around him, while Willow, with a gentle, serene expression, seemed more to absorb the atmosphere, her presence a soft, comforting anchor. They moved with an unhurried grace, often sharing quiet glances that spoke volumes. Finally, the jovial brothers, Khan and Ceylin, their laughter already echoing lightly across the deck. Can, the elder, possessed a booming voice and a hearty handshake, his face perpetually lit by a wide grin. Ceylin, a few years younger, was quieter but equally effusive, his eyes sparkling with a mischievous wit. They moved about the silent siren with an easy familiarity, clearly knowing these waters intimately, their movements mirroring the gentle rock of the boat. Ah, another soul drawn to the siren's song of silence. Can boomed good-naturedly, clapping Zephyr lightly on the shoulder before turning his attention to the rest of the passengers. Prepare yourselves, my friends, for the Aegean offers more than just pretty views. She offers a balm for the spirit. As the silent siren continued its graceful glide, the early afternoon sun began to truly warm the decks. You found a spot nestled among plush cushions beneath the Goulet's canvas canopy, which offered a welcome reprieve from the sun's intensity. This canvas canopy, stretched taut and elegant, became a symbol of shelter, a protective embrace from the harshness of the outside world, inviting deep relaxation. Here, you could surrender to the rhythm of the waves, the gentle rocking motion becoming a cradle for your thoughts, slowly easing them into a state of placid tranquility. Corvan, after a hesitant moment, settled onto a cushion nearby, his paperback now laid aside. He watched the subtle shimmer of the water, a faint crease still between his brows, a ghost of the pressures he carried. Emberlin sat a little further, sketching lightly in a small notebook, her gaze occasionally lifting to the horizon, her concentration seemingly effortless. Reese and Willow found a spot near the bow, their backs against the rail, simply watching the bow wave curl and dissipate. Can and Ceylin were in earnest conversation with Zephyr near the helm, their voices a low murmur, punctuated by the occasional burst of Can's hearty laughter. The world outside seemed to peel away in layers, each wave carrying a fragment of urgency or expectation back to the distant shore. Here, doing nothing became an art form, a journey in itself. The breathtaking scenery drifted by with a languid grace, distant islands rising like ancient leviathans from the blue, their rocky flanks softened by the haze, the air tasting of salt and distant time. The sky was an impossible, uninterrupted blue, reflected perfectly in the placid sea, blurring the line between solid and liquid. Zephyr, seeing your contemplative gaze, approached, a plate of freshly cut melon in hand. The Aegean has a way of showing us the true luxury of simplicity, he offered, his voice soft as he handed you a sweet, refreshing slice. No schedules, no demands, just the sun, the sea, and good company. You took the melon, its coolness a delightful contrast to the warmth of the air, and found yourself nodding, a genuine smile spreading across your face. The worries of yesterday and tomorrow, once so insistent, now felt distant, hazy, like the receding coastline. This journey was beginning to feel more comforting than any bed, more engaging than any distraction. Just breathe and simply be. Later that afternoon, the silent siren turned its prow towards the coastline, seeking one of the azure cradle coves. Zephyr guided the Goulet with practiced ease into a secluded inlet, its entrance guarded by ancient sun-baked rocks. As the engine finally cut, a profound silence descended, broken only by the gentle lapping of water and the distant cry of a gull. The water here was an impossible tapestry of turquoise and cobalt, so clear you could see the sandy bottom far below, dotted with the occasional rock and the lazy drift of small silverfish. "Time for a dip, my friends," Can announced, already shedding his shirt. Salen was right behind him, a competitive gleam in his eye. Soon, the still waters of the cove were disturbed by the joyful splashes of the brothers, followed by the more graceful entry of Emberlyn. Reese and Willow slipped into the water with quiet ease, their movements synchronized, as if they had done this 1,000 times before. Corvin hesitated for a moment, looking at the water with a mixture of apprehension and longing. He felt a similar pull. The buoyancy of the Aegean was legendary, and the thought of surrendering to its embrace was powerfully alluring. Taking a deep breath, you descended the short ladder, the cool water a gentle shock against your skin, quickly followed by a profound sense of weightlessness. The water was impossibly clear, invigorating yet soothing. You floated effortlessly, suspended between the vast blue above and the silent world below. The salty embrace was truly buoyant, holding you with such tender strength that all tension in your muscles melted away. You watched small, iridescent fish dart through the sunlit water, their scales flashing like scattered jewels. The sensation was one of pure freedom, a reconnection with a fundamental element. Corvin, after a moment, joined you, his initial stiffness slowly giving way to a relaxed enjoyment. He splashed a little, a rare, unburdened laugh escaping him as he watched the fish. As you drifted, Emberlyn, who had been exploring near the rocky edge of the cove, called out, "Look what I found." She held up a small weathered piece of pottery, its surface smoothed by centuries of tumbling in the waves, but still bearing the faint trace of an ancient pattern. Zephyr, who had been watching from the deck, lowered himself into the water with surprising agility and swam over. He took the fragment carefully in his hand, his gray eyes softening. Another whisper from the past," he said, turning the piece over. "These shores are rich with them. Fragments like this are often all that remain of the sea peoples." The mention of the sea peoples stirred something within you. These enigmatic groups, whose sudden appearance and destructive raids marked the end of the Bronze Age and the dawn of the Iron Age in the Eastern Mediterranean, had always fascinated you. Here, in the very waters they once traversed, their legacy felt tangible. "My grandmother used to tell stories," Salen piped up, treading water nearby, "that these lands before the great empires were ruled by women. The mothers, the grandmothers, they held the wisdom. The sea peoples," she said, "carried some of that old way with them, even in their wanderings." Ken nodded in agreement, his usual boisterousness tempered by a quiet respect for the tradition. Emberlyn's eyes lit up. "That aligns with some of the archaeological theories," she mused, her voice thoughtful. "The matristic epic, where lineage flowed through mothers and ancient truths were known through a different lens. Not just strength of arms, but strength of community, of nurturing." Corvin listened intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. The concept felt distant from his own highly competitive, patriarchal world. Yet there was a compelling resonance to it, a forgotten echo. The ancient ceramic fragments, small and unassuming, became tangible links to this past, prompting a profound contemplation of ancient truths. They were not just pieces of pottery. They were keys to a world where values might have been inverted, where power derived from connection rather than conquest. The sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery oranges and soft purples as you returned to the Silent Siren. Dinner was a feast of fresh grilled fish, vibrant salads, and local wine, served on deck under the vast, star-dusted canvas of the sky. The conversation flowed easily, no longer strained by initial formalities. Zephyr shared tales of the sea, his voice rich with experience, while Khan and Salen offered local anecdotes and humorous observations. Emberlyn discussed ancient history with a quiet passion, drawing Corvin into a deeper dialogue than he might have expected. Reese and Willow, though speaking little, contributed with their warm presence, their shared smiles and knowing glances adding to the convivial atmosphere. As the night deepened, a profound sense of peace settled over the silent siren. The stars, unobscured by city lights, blazed with an intensity you rarely witness, reflected in the obsidian mirror of the cove, the gentle rock of the gullet, the distant murmur of waves against the shore, the cool night air, all conspired to deepen the dreamlike relaxation that had begun to take hold. Corvin, for the first time in what felt like years, felt the knots in his shoulders finally unravel. He found himself truly present, deeply content, the professional pressures that had weighed him down now reduced to faint, inconsequential hums in a forgotten corner of his mind. You lay on a plush deck cushion, wrapped in a light blanket, watching the stars wheel overhead. The canvas canopy, once a mere shade provider, now felt like a cozy tent, a haven under the cosmic expanse. This was the attainment of Aegean serenity, not a dramatic arrival, but a gentle, pervasive presence that seeped into your bones. It was a feeling of belonging, of harmony with the vast, beautiful world around you, a sensation more comforting than any bed, more engaging than any distraction. The whispers of the sea peoples, the enigmatic legacy of a matristic epic, seemed to resonate in the quiet hum of the night. You felt a connection not just to the present moment, but to the timeless flow of history, to the generations who had sailed these very waters, who had lived and loved and left their marks on these ancient shores. A soft breeze stirred, carrying the scent of salt and distant pine. Tomorrow, Zephyr had promised, would bring another secluded cove, another chance to swim in the impossible blues, and perhaps another whisper from the deep, inviting you to further unravel the secrets held within this tranquil sea. Like and subscribe for more calming voyages. The dawn on the Aegean was not a dramatic burst of light, but a gentle, almost imperceptible softening of the deep indigo sky, as if the night itself was slowly exhaling its last breath. You stirred on your plush deck cushion, a light blanket still draped around you, and found yourself already awake, not from an alarm or an anxious thought, but from the sheer, quiet beauty unfolding. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of salt and the fainter, sweeter aroma of distant time from the unseen shore. The gullet, the silent siren, remained anchored in the azure cradle cove, its wooden hull a comforting presence against the gentle lapping of the water. The profound stillness of the previous night had deepened into a new kind of peace. The stars, which had blazed with such intensity, now began to recede, yielding to the encroaching light. You watched as the first rays of the sun kissed the jagged peaks of the surrounding hills, painting them in hues of soft rose and gold, then slowly spread down to illuminate the impossibly clear water below. It was a kaleidoscope of waking colors, the deep cobalt of the night giving way to a luminous sapphire, then to the shimmering turquoise that had so captivated you yesterday. This was not merely a new day. It was a continuation of the dreamlike relaxation, an invitation to sink even deeper into the Aegean's embrace. Soon, the quiet sounds of the gullet beginning to stir reached you. Zephyr was already up, a silhouette against the brightening horizon, moving with a practiced, silent grace around the helm. The gentle clinking of cups from the galley suggested that breakfast preparations were underway. Emberlyn emerged from her cabin, her hair still slightly disheveled from sleep, offering a soft, almost ethereal smile as her eyes met yours. She carried her small notebook, a pencil tucked behind her ear, her gaze immediately drawn to the subtle shifting colors of the water. Corvin, surprisingly, was also awake, sitting cross-legged on a nearby cushion, not with a book, but simply observing the sunrise, a rare, unburdened expression on his face. The faint crease between his brows, a persistent visitor of his urban life, seemed to have vanished entirely, Reese and Willow, ever in sync, appeared together, their movements mirroring each other as they found a quiet spot by the rail, taking in the panoramic view with a serene contentment that radiated outward. Cam and Salin, true to their jovial nature, were the last to emerge, their good-natured banter already starting as they stretched and yawned, their voices adding a warm, human counterpoint to the natural symphony of the morning. Breakfast was a simple affair, yet felt like a feast. Freshly baked bread, local honey, ripe figs, and strong aromatic coffee. The shared meal on the deck, under the expansive canvas canopy that now filtered the gentle morning sun into soft patterns of light and shade, fostered a deeper sense of camaraderie. The canopy, stretched taut above, provided not just shelter, but a feeling of being contained within a safe, beautiful space, a haven from the outside world. The conversations were unhurried, punctuated by long silences where only the soft lapping of waves against the hull filled the air. Corvan, usually guarded, found himself opening up, not about work, but about a long-forgotten childhood dream of sailing, a dream buried under layers of professional ambition. "I'd forgotten what it felt like," he confessed, gazing out at the shimmering water, to just be. Without a schedule, without a goal, just the horizon. Emberlyn nodded thoughtfully. "It's the oldest luxury," she mused. "The space to simply exist." The sea peoples, I imagine, understood this intimately. Their lives were defined by the sea, by its rhythms, its immense generosity, and its sudden, untamed power. Perhaps their wandering was less about conquest and more about an endless quest for this profound connection. She traced a pattern in the condensation on her glass, her eyes distant, as if seeing ancient ships ghosting across the very waters you now sailed. Khan, ever the storyteller, chimed in. "My grandfather always said the sea peoples weren't just warriors, but philosophers of the waves. They carried the knowledge of their mothers, of the earth's cycles, in their hearts, even as they sailed uncharted seas. They saw the world not as something to be owned, but as something to be cherished, a living entity that nurtured all life." Salin affirmed his brother's words with a quiet intensity, hinting at a shared, deep-rooted understanding of these ancient narratives. As the sun climbed higher, casting its golden warmth across the deck, Zephyr announced their next destination. "We'll explore Cove a little further west today," he said, his voice a low rumble, one that's known for its exceptionally clear waters and some intriguing shoreline formations. Sometimes, if you look closely, the land itself whispers its old stories. The silent siren slipped its mooring with barely a ripple, and the rhythmic hum of its engine resumed, a soothing thrum beneath your feet. The gullet glided effortlessly, a silent swan across the impossibly blue canvas of the Aegean. You settled back onto your cushions beneath the protective canvas canopy, allowing the gentle sway of the boat to lull you into a state of suspended animation. The scenery unfurled slowly, like an ancient scroll. Rugged coastlines softened by the haze of the distant islands, ancient olive groves clinging to sun-drenched slopes, and the endless expanse of the sea, its surface shimmering like hammered silver. The journey to the next Azure Cradle Cove was a meditation in motion. You watched the playful dance of light on the water, the way the breeze ruffled the surface into intricate patterns, creating fleeting tapestries of liquid silver and sapphire. The air was warm yet refreshing, carrying the faint, clean scent of the open sea. All urgency had indeed dissipated. Here, doing nothing was not a passive act, but an active engagement with the present moment, a profound surrender to the flow of time and tide. The breathtaking scenery drifted by, each passing island, each distant headland, a silent, beautiful tableau, deepening your sense of deep, almost dreamlike relaxation. The worries of yesterday and tomorrow, once so insistent, now felt like whispers from another life, barely audible against the vast symphony of the sea. The silent siren eventually rounded a dramatic headland, revealing another secluded inlet, a true jewel among the azure cradle coves. This one was different, its entrance narrower, flanked by towering cliffs that bore the marks of millennia of wind and sea. Inside, the water was even more intensely turquoise, almost incandescent, a liquid sapphire so transparent that you could see every detail of the sandy bottom, the undulating seaweed, and the darting schools of tiny iridescent fish, as if viewing them through perfectly polished glass. As the engine cut, the profound silence returned, even more enveloping than before. It was a silence that hummed with ancient energy, a sacred space where the modern world seemed an impossible, distant dream. "This is a special place," Zephyr said quietly, his gaze sweeping over the cove. "They say it was once a sacred bathing spot for priestesses. The energy here is ... old." Khan, unable to contain his excitement, was already peeling off his shirt. "Sacred or not, it's perfect for a swim," he declared, and with a whoop, plunged into the water, followed closely by Salan. Emberlyn, with her usual grace, slipped in, her movements fluid and serene. Reese and Willow entered together, their quiet splash barely disturbing the mirror-like surface. You felt the familiar, irresistible pull of the water. Taking a deep breath, you descended the ladder, the cool embrace of the Aegean, a familiar comfort now. The water here was even more buoyant, holding you with such tender strength that you felt utterly weightless, suspended between the vast blue above and the luminous world below. You floated effortlessly, the salty water supporting every limb, every muscle, allowing a complete release of all remaining tension. The sensation was one of pure, unadulterated freedom, a profound reconnection to a fundamental element, a homecoming to something primeval. Corvin, now much more at ease, swam alongside you, his earlier apprehension entirely gone. He dove beneath the surface, his body surprisingly agile, emerging with a grin. "It's like flying," he exclaimed, shaking water from his tawny hair. "But softer, better." He pointed to a small school of silverfish that darted past, their scales flashing like tiny beacons in the sunlight. "Just look at them. They don't have a care in the world." As you drifted near the rocky edge of the cove, a subtle glint caught your eye, partially obscured by a cluster of smooth, sea-worn pebbles. You reached down, fingers closing around something small and surprisingly heavy. Pulling it from the water, you saw it was another ancient ceramic fragment, larger than the one found yesterday and more intricately decorated. Its surface, smoothed by countless centuries, still bore the faint, elegant swirl of a geometric pattern, perhaps a stylized wave or a celestial symbol. You held it up, and Emberlyn, swimming nearby, instantly recognized its significance. "Another whisper," she breathed, her eyes shining with excitement. Zephyr, who had been watching from the deck, paddled over, his gray eyes softening as he took the fragment. "Remarkable," he murmured, turning it over in his capable hands. "The pattern is distinct. Perhaps a ritual vessel or a fragment from a domestic amphora. Either way, it speaks of a time when the hands that shaped this clay belonged to people who knew these waters as their home, their livelihood, their very identity." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the ancient cliffs. "These fragments, they aren't just pottery. They are tangible links to the sea peoples, to their journeys, their beliefs, and their enigmatic legacies. Imagine the women who made these, who held these. Their wisdom, their resilience." Salem, treading water nearby, added, "My grandmother always said that the patterns on the old pottery were like stories. The swirls, the spirals, they were the stories of the mothers, of the earth and the moon, of the cycles of life and death, of abundance. Not stories of war, but of creation and continuity." Kane nodded, a quiet reverence in his usually boisterous demeanor. Emberlyn elaborated. In many ancient cultures, especially those believed to be part of the mitristic epic, symbols were incredibly powerful. They were not just decorative. They were carriers of meaning, of tradition, of knowledge. A swirl might represent the endless cycle of life, the power of water, or the coiled serpent, a symbol of regeneration and wisdom. These fragments invite us to contemplate a world where power was unsolely defined by physical might or conquest, but by a deep understanding of natural rhythms, of interconnectedness of lineage flowing through mothers who held the true wisdom and guided their communities. Corvan listened intently, the ceramic fragment now passed to him, his fingers tracing the ancient pattern. The contrast with his own world, dominated by linear progression, by metrics of success and individual achievement, was stark. Yet there was a profound appeal in this ancient vision, a forgotten echo of balance and harmony. The small, unassuming piece of pottery became a powerful conduit, prompting a profound contemplation of ancient truths of a world where different values might have reigned supreme, where the gentle strength of community and nurturing might have held more sway than the sharp edge of a sword. It was a humbling thought, a quiet revolution in his own mind. As the afternoon sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in ever richer hues of orange, pink, and purple, you returned to the silent siren. The deck, still warm from the sun, invited relaxation. The canvas canopy overhead, now bathed in the soft, diffused light of the setting sun, created an atmosphere of intimate tranquility, a safe haven where thoughts could drift and settle. You found yourself drawn into quiet contemplation, the ceramic fragment a smooth, cool weight in your palm. The whispers of the sea peoples, the evocative idea of the matristic epoch, resonated deeply within you, not as abstract historical concepts, but as living echoes in the very air and the ancient landscape, and in the profound sense of peace that now enveloped you. Dinner was served on deck again, a delightful spread of freshly caught fish grilled to perfection, accompanied by vibrant salads made with local produce and a crisp, chilled white wine. The conversation flowed easily, enriched by the day's discoveries. Zephyr shared more tales of the sea, his voice rich with experience, while Khan and Silent offered humorous anecdotes and local legends, their laughter echoing lightly across the water. Emberlyn discussed the intricate symbolism of ancient artifacts with a quiet passion, engaging Corvan in a lively yet gentle debate about the nature of power and legacy. Reese and Willow, though still speaking little, contributed with their warm, steady presence, their shared smiles and knowing glances adding to the convivial atmosphere, a silent anchor in the unfolding evening. As night deepened, the sky transformed into a breathtaking tapestry of stars, unobscured by any artificial light. The Milky Way, a shimmering river of cosmic dust, stretched across the heavens, reflected in the obsidian mirror of the cove. The gentle rock of the gullet, the distant murmur of waves against the shore, the cool night air carrying the scent of salt and distant pine, all conspired to deepen the dreamlike relaxation that had begun to take hold days ago. You lay on a plush deck cushion, wrapped in a light blanket, watching the celestial ballet unfold above. The canvas canopy, once a mere shade provider, now felt like a cozy, protective tent, a personal observatory under the cosmic expanse. This was the true attainment of Aegean serenity, not a dramatic event, but a gentle, pervasive presence that had seeped into your very bones, replacing anxiety with a profound calm. Corvan, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, felt the last knots of tension in his shoulders finally unravel. He was truly present, deeply content. The professional pressures that had weighed him down now reduced to faint, inconsequential hums in a forgotten corner of his mind. You felt a deep sense of belonging, of harmony with the vast, beautiful world around you. It was a sensation more comforting than any bed, more engaging than any distraction, a feeling that resonated with the ancient whispers of the sea peoples, the enigmatic legacy of a matristic epoch. You felt connected, not just to the present moment, but to the timeless flow of history, to the generations who had sailed these very waters, who had lived and loved and left their marks on these ancient shores. The small ceramic fragment, still warm from your hand, rested beside you, a tangible link to that ancient world. A soft breeze stirred, carrying the scent of salt and distant pine, a lullaby to the soul. The quiet hum of the night, the gentle rhythm of the waves, the infinite expanse of stars, all promise continued tranquility, a deeper unraveling of self, and the sweet, profound peace that only this ancient sea could offer. You breathed deeply, letting the silence fill you, knowing that this profound stillness was now a part of you, a calm that would echo long after the journey ended. The Aegean had indeed found the calm within you, and it was a gift beyond measure. Like and subscribe for more calming voyages. The vast canvas of stars deepened, each pinprick of light a silent testament to eternity, unobscured by the soft glow of distant shorelines. You lay on the plush deck cushion, a light blanket pulled up to your chin, feeling the gentle, rhythmic rock of the silent siren beneath you. The gullet, a warm wooden shell, seemed to breathe with the sea, its slight movements a lullaby more profound than any song. The air was cool, carrying the pristine scent of the open water, a whisper of pine from unseen islands, and a faint, sweet hint of night-blooming jasmine that seemed to drift from the very edges of memory. The Milky Way, a celestial river of swirling white, stretched across the zenith, an incandescent brushstroke against the velvet black. You felt a quiet awe, a sense of belonging to something immeasurably larger than yourself, a fleeting particle of consciousness bathed in ancient starlight. The canvas canopy overhead, now a comforting dark expanse, enclosed this personal observatory, making the immense sky feel both grand and intimately yours. It was here, suspended between the silent depths and the glittering cosmos, that the last vestiges of the world you'd left behind finally seemed to dissipate. The urgent demands, the relentless schedules, the hum of digital notifications, all of it had become an unreality, a distant, faded dream. Corvin, nestled on a cushion nearby, was equally lost in contemplation. His eyes, no longer shadowed by the tension of unaddressed emails or looming deadlines, reflected the star-splashed sky. The subtle shift in his demeanor since the journey began was profound. The lean build, once indicative of a sedentary urban existence, now seemed to carry a different kind of strength, one born of stillness and observation. He held the ceramic fragment found earlier that day, turning it gently in his fingers, its cool, smooth surface a tactile link to a forgotten past. The faint, elegant swirl of the geometric pattern seemed to pulse with a silent energy, inviting a different kind of thought, one detached from logic and rooted in intuition. He stirred, a soft sigh escaping him. "It's like the world I know, it's all just a tiny speck from up there," he murmured, his voice hushed, as if not to disturb the profound quiet. "And down here," he gestured vaguely to the gullet and the water, "it's another kind of infinite. The stories in these old rocks and the patterns on this pottery, they feel more real than anything I've touched in years." Emberlyn, who had been sketching quietly by the soft glow of a deck lantern, looked up, her insightful gaze meeting his. "Because they are real, Corvin," she said softly, her voice carrying a gentle resonance. "They are the echoes of a wisdom that understands this infinite. The metristic epoch, as we understand it, wasn't just a period in history. It was a way of perceiving the world, a recognition of cycles, of nurturing, of the interconnectedness of all life. This fragment isn't just a piece of clay. It's a shard of that worldview carried across millennia by the sea itself." Zephyr, who had been sitting at the helm, a silent guardian under the stars, shifted. "The sea remembers," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Every wave that breaks on these shores has seen civilizations rise and fall. It carries the whispers of every person who ever sailed these waters, every thought, every prayer. These fragments, he indicated the one in Corvin's hand, they are like the sea's own memory, brought to the surface for us to touch. Can and Ceylon, despite their earlier joviality, were now similarly subdued, gazing at the stars with a quiet reverence. Khan recounted a tale his grandmother used to tell of star weavers, ancient women who could read the constellations as if they were threads in a grand tapestry, guiding not just ships, but the very destiny of their communities. Sewen added that these weavers were said to communicate with the sea peoples, not through words, but through the patterns they saw in the waves and the subtle shifts in the wind, a language understood by the heart. Reese and Willow, as always, were a quiet presence, their hands clasped loosely as they looked out at the dark water. Their serenity was contagious, a palpable force that deepened the tranquility on deck. They seemed to embody the very stillness that the Aegean had so generously offered, their unhurried movements and soft smiles reflecting a deep, abiding peace. You felt a subtle tremor run through you, not of fear, but of profound recognition. The stories, the fragments, the ancient whispers, they weren't just intellectual curiosities. They were resonating with something deep within your own being, a forgotten chord now being struck. The feeling was akin to remembering a dream you didn't realize you'd had, a sensation of ancient wisdom flowing through you, a connection to a lineage of mothers, of earthbound knowing that transcended the linear march of time. The simple act of breathing became a conscious communion with the vast living world, each inhale drawing in the peace, each exhale releasing what no longer served. Eventually, one by one, the travelers drifted towards their cabins or found deeper comfort on their deck cushions. You chose to remain outside, reluctant to break the spell of the night. The canvas canopy, once just a practical shelter, now felt like a sacred space, a woven guardian between you and the boundless sky. You closed your eyes, the image of the star-strewn heavens imprinted behind your eyelids, and drifted into a sleep so deep, so untroubled, that it felt more like a gentle journey than a mere cessation of consciousness. The dream, when it came, was not vivid or dramatic, but luminous and deeply resonant. You were not a specific you, but a presence, floating effortlessly in water that shimmered with impossible shades of turquoise and cobalt. Around you, two grand sea turtles, their ancient shells etched with swirling patterns like the ceramic fragment, moved in a slow, graceful dance. Their movements were not hurried or frantic, but deliberate, a ballet of profound stillness. They seemed to communicate without sound, their eyes holding the wisdom of countless centuries. They circled you, their flippers moving with a slow, powerful rhythm, and as they passed, the water around them pulsed with a soft, ethereal light. It felt like a blessing, a silent initiation into the mysteries of the deep, a tangible link to the dance of the azure mariners, a recognition of life's enduring, gentle power. The dream faded as gently as it arrived, leaving behind a residue of peace and a quiet understanding that shimmered just beyond words. You awoke with the first blush of dawn, the same gentle, almost imperceptible softening of the indigo sky as before, but with a renewed sense of clarity. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the familiar sense of salt and thyme, now infused with the subtle promise of a new day. The silent siren remained anchored in the azure cradle cove, its wooden hull a steady, comforting presence. The profound stillness from the previous night had not merely lingered. It had deepened, settling into the very core of your being. The sky began to brighten, painting the jagged peaks in soft rose and gold, then slowly spreading down to illuminate the impossibly clear water below. The luminous sapphire and shimmering turquoise seemed to have absorbed the starlight, glowing with an inner luminescence. This was not just a continuation of the dreamlike relaxation. It was an affirmation, a gentle unfolding of a deeper harmony within yourself. Zephyr was already at the helm, a silent silhouette against the burgeoning light, moving with his practiced graceful movements. The gentle clinking of cups from the galley confirmed breakfast preparations were underway. Emberlyn emerged, her eyes bright with arrested energy, her small notebook in hand. She offered a soft smile, her gaze immediately drawn to the water's shifting colors, as if she could read the day's story in its subtle undulations. Corvin, surprisingly, was not only awake, but had already finished a quiet session of meditation, his posture relaxed, his face devoid of any tension. He was simply observing the sunrise, an expression of profound contentment on his face. The faint crease between his brows, a persistent visitor from his urban life, seemed to have vanished completely, replaced by a smooth, untroubled expanse. Reese and Willow appeared together, their movements mirroring each other as they settled by the rail, taking in the panoramic view with a serene calm that radiated outward. Can and Salen, true to their jovial nature, were the last to emerge, their good-natured banter already starting, adding a warm, human counterpoint to the natural symphony of the morning. Breakfast, as always, was a simple yet satisfying affair. Freshly baked bread, local honey, ripe figs, and strong, aromatic coffee. The shared meal on deck, beneath the expansive canvas canopy that now filtered the gentle morning sun into soft patterns of light and shade, fostered a deeper sense of camaraderie. The canopy, stretched taut above, provided not just shelter, but a feeling of being contained within a safe, beautiful space, a haven from the outside world. The conversations were unhurried, punctuated by long silences where only the soft lapping of waves against the hull filled the air. Corvin spoke, his voice unusually soft. "I had the most extraordinary dream," he began, recounting the gentle dance of the sea turtles in the luminous water. T felt ancient, like a memory, not just a dream. Emberlyn's eyes widened slightly. "The dance of the azure mariners," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. "It's an old legend among the coastal communities. They say when the spirit of the sea wants to bless a journey or impart a deep wisdom, it sends its ancient mariners, the great sea turtles, to perform their slow, silent dance. It's a symbol of lineage, of connection to the matriarchal wisdom of the waters." She paused, a thoughtful expression on her face. "It's a sign, Corvan, that the Aegean has truly embraced you. And perhaps that the whispers of the matristic epoch are not just echoes of the past, but living energies." Khan nodded vigorously. "My grandmother used to say those turtles carry the maps of the stars on their shells, guiding not just themselves, but the very currents of the ocean. They know the secrets of the sea peoples, where their hidden coves are, where their ancient truths lie buried." Salen chimed in, "And they never rush. They move with the rhythm of the world, teaching us patience, teaching us the value of simply being." Zephyr, his gaze sweeping the horizon, smiled. "The sea offers its gifts in many forms. Sometimes it's a fragment of pottery, sometimes a dream, sometimes simply the profound silence. Today, it seems to be offering a deeper glimpse into its heart." He gestured towards a faint, almost imperceptible discoloration on the cliff face a little further into the cove. "After breakfast, we'll take the dinghy. There's a small, hidden entrance there, known only to a few. It leads to a cave, a place where the sea peoples are said to have left more than just fragments." The prospect of exploring a hidden cave, a place untouched by the casual tourist, filled you with a quiet anticipation. It wasn't an adrenaline-fueled excitement, but a deep, resonant curiosity, a yearning to connect further with the enigmatic legacies of the past. The feeling of profound stillness remained, a steady undercurrent beneath this gentle sense of adventure. After breakfast, the small group gathered by the dinghy. Zephyr, with his capable hands, helped everyone in. The water in the cove was so clear that the dinghy seemed to float on air, suspended above the vibrant tapestry of the seabed. You could discern every pebble, every swaying frond of seaweed, every darting fish with astonishing clarity. As they approached the cliff face, the discoloration resolved into a narrow fissure, almost invisible from a distance, overgrown with tenacious, salt-sprayed shrubs. Zephyr expertly navigated the dinghy through the opening, and suddenly, the world outside was replaced by a cool, echoing darkness. The sound of the waves, once open and expansive, now became a muffled, resonant hum, amplifying the sense of entering a sacred, ancient space. Zephyr produced a waterproof lantern, its beam cutting through the gloom, revealing a surprisingly spacious cavern. The air inside was cool and damp, carrying the faint, earthy scent of ancient rock and salt. The walls of the cave were smooth, polished by millennia of wave action, but here and there, faint markings became visible as Zephyr swept the lantern beam across them. They weren't elaborate carvings, but simple, elegant symbols, spirals, waves, geometric patterns remarkably similar to those on the ceramic fragment. Emberlyn gasped softly. "These are symbols of the matristic epoch," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. "They speak of water, of the moon, of the womb, of creation. Not of conquest, but of continuity." This was a sanctuary, a place of profound significance for the priestesses and the mothers of the sea peoples. Corvin ran a hand over one of the smooth carvings, the cool stone a tangible link to those who had stood in this very spot thousands of years ago. "It's humbling," he said, his voice quiet, "to think of the hands that etched these, the stories they represent. It's so far removed from our linear understanding of history, of progress." Khan pointed to a natural alcove in the rock. "My grandfather said that these caves were often used for ceremonies, for passing down knowledge from mother to daughter. The echoes in here, they aren't just sound. They're the echoes of ancient voices, ancient wisdom." Salen added. He also said that the women here would paint the stories of their lineage on the walls, using pigments made from local minerals and sea creatures. The faded colors are still here, if you look closely. Indeed, as the lantern beam moved, faint traces of red ochre and a soft, bluish-green hue became visible in places, ghostly outlines of patterns that had once told vibrant stories. They were depictions not of battles, but of harvests, of fishing, of pregnant women, of constellations, and of the graceful sea turtles, their shells adorned with symbols. It was an art that celebrated life, abundance, and the interconnectedness of the human and natural world. You felt a powerful sense of presence in the cave, a quiet energy that vibrated beneath the surface of the visible. It was as if the ancient truths were not just whispered on the breeze, but embedded in the very rock, waiting to be rediscovered. The matriarchal heritage of the sea peoples, once an abstract historical concept, now felt palpable, a living essence within this sacred space. The cave wasn't just a physical place. It was a doorway to a different way of seeing, a profound contemplation of ancient truths that challenged the foundations of modern understanding. After a long, reflective time in the cave, the group emerged back into the brilliant sunlight of the cove, blinking slightly at the intensity of the light. The vibrant turquoise water seemed even more dazzling after the cave's cool darkness. The silent siren sat patiently, a welcoming haven on the shimmering surface. The afternoon was spent in a state of tranquil absorption. Some swam, floating effortlessly in the buoyant, salty embrace of the Aegean, their bodies feeling light and free. Others read or simply sat on deck, warmed by the sun, shaded by the canvas canopy, watching the mesmerizing play of light on the water. You found yourself drifting between these states, alternating between immersion in the incredibly clear water and quiet contemplation on the deck. The small ceramic fragment, now a constant companion, rested in your hand, its ancient pattern a tactile reminder of the morning's profound discovery. The worries of yesterday and tomorrow had not merely melted away. They had been replaced by a deep, almost dreamlike relaxation, a sense of belonging and harmony with the vast, beautiful world around you. This feeling was more comforting than any bed, more engaging than any distraction. It was a profound inner calm, a stillness that resonated with the ancient whispers of the sea peoples, the enigmatic legacy of the matristic epic. The journey was not just a physical movement across the Aegean, but an internal voyage, leading you back to a fundamental self, unburdened and at peace. As the sun began its slow descent once more, painting the sky in ever richer hues of orange, pink, and purple, dinner was served on deck. Freshly caught fish, grilled to perfection, vibrant salads made with local produce, and crisp white wine created a feast for the senses. The conversation flowed easily, enriched by the day's discoveries. Zephyr shared more tales of the sea, his voice rich with experience, while Kun and Selin offered humorous anecdotes and local legends, their laughter echoing lightly across the water. Emberlin discussed the intricate symbolism of the cave markings with a quiet passion, engaging Corvan in a lively yet gentle debate about the nature of power and legacy, and how societies might have thrived under different guiding principles. Reese and Willow, though still speaking little, contributed with their warm, steady presence, their shared smiles and knowing glances adding to the convivial atmosphere, a silent anchor in the unfolding evening. As night deepened, the sky transformed into a breathtaking tapestry of stars, unobscured by any artificial light. The Milky Way, a shimmering river of cosmic dust, stretched across the heavens, reflected in the obsidian mirror of the cove. The gentle rock of the Gullet, the distant murmur of waves against the shore, the cool night air carrying the scent of salt and distant pine, all conspired to deepen the dreamlike relaxation that had now firmly taken root within you. You lay on a plush deck cushion, wrapped in a light blanket, watching the celestial ballet unfold above. The canvas canopy, once a mere shade provider, now felt like a cozy, protective tent, a personal observatory under the cosmic expanse. This was the true, enduring attainment of Aegean serenity, not a dramatic event, but a gentle, pervasive presence that had seeped into your very bones, replacing anxiety with a profound, unshakable calm. Corvan, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, felt the last knots of tension in his shoulders finally unravel, completely and utterly. He was truly present, deeply content. The professional pressures that had weighed him down now, reduced to faint, inconsequential hums in a forgotten corner of his mind, barely audible against the vast symphony of the sea. You felt a deep sense of belonging, of harmony with the vast, beautiful world around you. It was a sensation more comforting than any bed, more engaging than any distraction, a feeling that resonated with the ancient whispers of the sea peoples, the enigmatic legacy of a matristic epic. You felt connected, not just to the present moment, but to the timeless flow of history, to the generations who had sailed these very waters, who had lived and loved and left their marks on these ancient shores. The small ceramic fragment, still warm from your hand, rested beside you, a tangible link to that ancient world, a quiet anchor in the unfolding peace. A soft breeze stirred, carrying the scent of salt and distant pine, a lullaby to the soul. The quiet hum of the night, the gentle rhythm of the waves, the infinite expanse of stars, all promise continued tranquility, a deeper unraveling of self, and the sweet, profound peace that only this ancient sea could offer. You breathed deeply, letting the silence fill you, knowing that this profound stillness was now a part of you, a calm that would echo long after the journey ended. The Aegean had indeed found the calm within you, a gift beyond measure, a peace that was now irrevocably yours. Like and subscribe for more calming voyages.